of Brazil's history is 2 girls, 1 cup.
Okay, I was sitting, Katz's Deli?
Yeah.
Okay, I was with Katz's Deli, and there's this guy sitting with his his wife and his kid, and he's like, "Oh, I'm from Colombia. I'm from Medellin. We have, culture, whatever." I'm like, "Oh yeah, Pablo Escobar, cocaine." He got so mad. He got so mad. We're sitting there in Katz's Day. He's like, "You're talking about cocaine? How dare you?"
That wasn't us.
And then he's like,
We didn't decide for Pablo Escobar to be there.
Is that offensive though?
I mean, in some ways that you're defining a country by the worst elements of them.
Yeah, but
Like if it was like U.S.
You guys
You're good?
You guys are good. Okay.
Okay. Are we recording?
Yes.
Okay. It's like if you were like the U.S. known for epic things like the JFK assassination, the overthrow, failed coup attempts, and like I don't know. I'm trying to think of the worst. What's the slavery? That was a pretty bad thing.
probably Afghanistan.
That is Afghanistan's bad also. So Afghanistan, the death of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis.
But it's not a judgment. If someone's like, "Oh, the U.S. sucks because of Afghanistan," it's like, I didn't do. It's not like me personally. I went to Afghanistan. Like even the people that did go, it's like more like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but when I was in Europe, when Bush was in office and we were like bombing the Middle East, there were a lot of people that were like opposed to that war. And I remember being in Europe,
Yeah.
and the people being like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Like they just hated you.
Yeah.
Like for being Americans. They hated America and Americans. And I was just like, what the hell is going on here? Like it felt borderline insecure.
So I was like talking about this Colombian guy. I wasn't like hating on him. Like, "Oh, you piece of shit, you brought cocaine to America.
I think he should have been able to tolerate it. But I mean,
But then what he said was, "There's a lot of things I could say about the Jews, but I choose not to."
wow. Did he really say that?
He said that.
Are you serious?
I swear to God.
What the
I was
hell?
like, what?
That is ridiculous.
He took it to a whole.
Did you
nother-
tell him that you were Jewish?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Israel or something. I said.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fair.
That's fair. You think that's fair?
No, I mean that's like a crazy statement. I just didn't know if he said that
Right.
just based on looking at
Oh,
you
no,
or if you had like clarified that.
No.
I was like, really?
No, I clarified it, but still,
Dude, that's fucking aggressive.
I was like, and we're in Katz's Deli, a Jewish establishment. Like,
The-
enjoy your pastrami, you coke addict.
I don't go to the main Cats. I go to the one I lived on top. Oh, I'm moving out of the place literally on Wednesday on the place on top of Cats Deli in downtown Brooklyn. So
That's like in like a food hall or something.
yeah,
right?
DeKalb Market. There's never a line there.
Is it as good?
It's fucking phenomenal.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really good.
I haven't been to that one.
It costs $30 for a sandwich.
Yeah, but you get it's 2 meals.
Okay, kind of, yeah. Yeah, you have half of one and you're like, all right, I feel like I'm good.
But yeah, I only been to the OG one.
Yeah, and there's always a line when I drive or
yeah.
when I go by.
Of course.
Yeah, no, the one in DeKalb Market is really good.
Is it just those two?
I think so. I don't know about the Cats franchise, what their
I think that
situation is.
I think that the reason they're still around is just because they own that building.
Well, there's always a line.
Yeah, but like, if you don't own the building and you're so successful, your landlord's like, "Oh,
I was just gonna keep increasing.
you're
the
gonna."
lease.
Yeah, I feel like you get kind of fucked like that.
I mean,
Real estate. The Jews will buy the real estate to get it.
you are correct. They do keep increasing. Yeah, they probably had a long lease term, or they own it.
I think they own it.
They probably do. At this
But
point.
like, if you look around that place, like they have the shortest building around there.
yeah, there's actually a that's like an issue somewhere. There's some billionaire that went in to like buy it, like up in Midtown or Upper East Side, and there's like one building that's just like a couple of stories. I was reading an article this morning about. Sorry, I don't know if we're gonna officially start this, but last
Choose Rich Nick. Thank you for fucking coming. Let's go. Thank you to the sponsor. Say. Tell me about this article,
dude. So someone like some guy. Well, X has just become like Elon Musk propaganda, basically.
I've got him on mute.
Yeah, dude, it's gotten out of control. But I got like someone posting about the Daily Wire article today, which I would never have referenced as like a reliable news source in the past.
Sure.
And basically, the guy was like, "Yo, you know, Doge found one of the most ultimate scams ever." And it was like these people owned a 7-story tower in D.C.
Okay.
And I was like, a house? like on K Street, a tower. And I'm like, is that a tower? Like 7 stories? Okay, it's like that would be a big house.
But this is like a government.
Yeah, it was someone that was taking money out of the government, and they were like, one of the executives there was making $175,000, and that wasn't enough. I'm like, yeah, DC is pretty expensive to live in. Like, I don't know,
75 is not.
It's not like an insane. It was like, holy shit, he made $175,000. One of the executives there paid for business class flights internationally, and I'm like, okay. It is expensive, but like there's some degree.
Yeah.
Who pays for business class flights? Like you're using your business to pay for business class is the ideal situation. Now, obviously, there's some reasonable limit to all these different things.
Sure.
They were like, yeah, they were paying for personal vacations. Okay, that's unreasonable. But it was also like Elon had tweeted a thing as well that was like, do you know the number of government employees who are millionaires? And I'm like, yeah, I have a friend who like really only saves money. He's based in, but works in California.
Okay.
He makes less than 200,000. It's probably somewhere in the 150,000 range. And he's been working in the government for like, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. And he's just been saving money. And so he has over $1 million at this point in time. And he's like he hasn't stayed in like expensive neighborhoods. He stayed like just outside of those neighborhoods and like built up his wealth over time. But it was just like the way it was presented from Elon. I'm like, so are like government employees not supposed to make a fair wage? I don't know what, like $1 million is not like this like insane quantity of money where it's just like, and you're set for life. I don't know. I don't.
So you're for government corruption, is what you're trying to.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
That's what you're trying to get to.
Pretty much. I mean, dude, when you look at other governments coming around, like Saudi Arabia, I mean, the Saudis, I don't know that I'd use as like a great example of like I'd like
Western democracy.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember they ended up. Every agency in on K Street, which was like all the people contracting with the government, essentially, Saudi Arabia was always like one of their clients. It was the unspoken thing, and they'd pay just like insane amounts for like a website or for whatever it was, and like yeah, I remember. I ended up working on one of the websites, and I was like feeling conflicted. I was like, what is it like? Should I be doing this?
Well, why did you feel bad?
I don't know. At that time, I was just like, I mean, that was like just after like 9/11,
okay.
And they're like trying to like
after 9/11,
like I don't know, a couple of years after 9/11, and they're trying to like rebuild their reputation basically in the U.S. So,
LoveBinLaden.com.
Yeah, wasn't exactly that, but it was like it was like
what was it?
I don't even remember what the site was for. It was for some like random policy that they were, advocating for. Actually, the Middle East is awful with lobbying. Like they're notoriously awful, primarily because they don't like give a shit about like a lot of like agendas, because they're just like, well, we got a fuck ton of money, like we don't need to like lobby for all that much in the US. And then there was I had a roommate who was from Syria, and there was some I I forget the Arab Anti-Defamation League, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
Arab AADL. And I go with my buddy to this. He's like, yo, they're hosting this dinner. You want to go to it? I'm like, this will be interesting. Yeah. So I go to it, and I'm like having dinner, and the Saudi prince, who the current guy put, you know how he like jailed all those people in a Four Seasons hotel?
Okay, I didn't hear about that, no.
That was like years ago when MBS came into power. He jailed all of his like enemies, and a lot of those people were like really.
Was that like Argo, where they could?
Well, I don't remember the scenes of
like,
Argos. I'm turning off my notifications real quick.
Okay. Well, they like when they went in and they took those hostages out. Not in the Four Seasons, I guess, though.
Maybe.
Different
yeah.
thing. Okay.
So basically, they had all these people in the in this hotel, and it's Prince bin Alawid or something like that. This guy's one of the richest people in the world.
Sure.
And he came up on stage at this event, and he was like, on my private jet, you know, I hired the first female pilot in all of Saudi Arabia. And he's like, and that's like, everyone's like, incredible. And then he's like, I'm going to make a donation to your organization today of $1 million. And like, this guy's the richest person in the world. I'm like, bro, do you know how much AIPAC has? Like they're giving, the philanthropists give billions of dollars. And like the richest guy in Saudi Arabia, which is, I think, one of the richest, if not the richest. Well, I guess Kuwait, Qatar, some of these places also have like billionaires. But basically, the richest guy in that country is like, and here is $1 million. Like, I'm like, they don't understand what the fuck is going on here.
Right.
Like, they're just having a party, basically. And they're like, for the love of God, give us more money, man. We're warring against the Jews. Like, that's basically, I don't want to say it that way, but like a lot of my roommate kind of really had a very anti-Israel, like, it was when war would happen. I remember that like there were like moments, he was Syrian, and Israel and Syria, I don't know the last time that they've had like a positive sort of dynamic. And then you had for a long time, I mean, this corrupt, what's his name, who's now been ousted. The head of Syria, I don't know the president's name.
I forgot.
Anyways, but the bottom line is, I mean, Israel would just fly over and bomb random places when it was like any threat, just willy-nilly and without repercussion. So I think that there was like kind of, there's definitely been a negative view around many of the Arab countries against Israel. Not to the degree, but they also, it's not like they support, and anyways, we're on some random political shit. It's not like they support the Palestinians like in any way. That like they don't really give a shit. But it's just like don't get in our country.
Yeah, it's the opposite. They actively don't support them.
Yeah. Yet like use it to their political benefit whenever it's like helpful. So yeah, the whole thing is like kind of ridiculous. But it was just like seeing that in person was kind of crazy for me. And I was like, man, this was like really insightful. I'm glad that I was at this event. It's not like there were a bunch of people, like it wasn't like a giant anti-Semitic gathering. It was just like, I don't know, a bunch of like Arab country, you know, diplomats and other people like that just hanging out there and wealthy, you know, donors essentially.
Well, if you throw a big party,
people are going to show up around DC basically.
And then like some percentage are going to be like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy. I'll do whatever he says. Like, it's not like they like are thinking super deeply about the issue, or it's just about buying a nice, you know, ribeye or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess, I mean, maybe he made a bigger donation at a later date. Maybe I shouldn't be so like whatever. But I'm like, yo, y'all are like, I feel like if you're an AIPAC thing, and this year we've raised $150 million for, you know, whatever.
Yeah, AIPAC is huge.
Yeah, they're one of the largest lobbying firms in DC. Yeah, I've had, anyways.
What were you doing in DC?
I grew up there.
Okay.
I grew up in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
And then went to American University, and then I stayed in D.C. until 2011. maybe actually no 2009. I think I moved to San Francisco, but yeah, I grew up there, and stayed there for an extended period of time. Uh, and yeah, once you're out of university, obviously a lot of the employment comes from the government in DC, or government associated things. So I was doing things like I was building websites for. I was the in-house PHP developer for a lot of for random people. I worked at startups in DC. There were like tech startups, and then I worked at agencies doing web development work.
You're a dev, bro?
I've been a developer for over 20. I'm building a mobile app right now, actually.
What kind of mobile app you working on?
It's basically a news aggregator.
Okay.
Yeah. In the crypto space, crypto news aggregator.
You don't like DB?
DB? Oh, like tier 10K and stuff like that. No, I do.
What's the USP of a mobile news aggregator?
The main thing that people sign up for is they want tips on meme coins.
Mm-hmm.
And like the next token thing happening.
Gotcha.
There's also like community stuff in there. But yeah.
So there's a BoDoggos news alerts.
Yeah. Bro, right now it's called Choose Rich Live.
Choose Rich Live.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing a bunch of news like recently.
Yeah, you kind of change you have a new style.
Well, for the daily stuff, it's pretty easy to like have that cadence going on.
Mm-hmm.
Versus coming up with the sketches. The sketches do really well, but I feel like you can't, like, it's hard to just be a clown full time, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Because you're a serious man.
I'm a very serious man. It was just interesting. I mean, that content is great as well. It just requires more thought and energy associated with it. Like last night, I was at Pio's and we were shooting a horror film, or a horror sketch. It'll be like a couple minutes, it takes hours to shoot that. Versus the news stuff, people do seem to pay attention to. I don't know what it is, that like causes people to specifically want that format to digest the news. But I give a synopsis of what's going on in the space. What really catalyzed that was being at the Trump, the crypto ball. And I was acting like a fool and simultaneously delivering a piece of information that people wanted to know, which was, is this Trump's official token? And like, what's going on at that crypto ball? Those were like the two things that people are trying to figure out, because they're like, is that where this information broke? Like, is that like, people were assuming, yeah, there was like information at that location, which there wasn't, but they wanted to know what was going on. And I was giving eyes to that thing just as it was happening. Nobody else was doing that. And it was like a pretty big deal. You got like the inauguration incoming. You have the crypto space very bullish on the Trump administration. And frankly, that's been validated as it applies to crypto. Obviously, there's all the trade war stuff and everything else. And I started doing videos when I got back, or I just kept doing it. And I was like, wow, these are like getting actual views on these videos. I'm surprised. Like, I didn't realize that people were going to just like consume that information. And I've now had people, like, I was in the store the other day, popped into Louis Vuitton, because that's where I'm always shopping. I actually did walk into one. We were at the mall and I was like, let's just walk into this place. And we walk in and I didn't buy anything, but, I don't,
right.
I don't normally shop there. But I walk in and a guy walks up to me and he's like, yo, are you the Nick who does the crypto news? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah. But a lot of people like end up watching that and they see it every day. And I think having that like regular cadence is like the key thing. It becomes like a habit. And when you're scrolling through the news, like 1-2 minutes is not a big ask for the consumer, for like the viewer. I mean, it's more than on like I don't know, the average X video view, but yeah.
No, 1 minute's fine if it's entertaining.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like yelling in the news.
Yeah.
Like I'm not delivering. I'm not like in today's news is, you know, although I have wanted to do different like scenes where I'm like walking through the mall yelling and people are like, what the hell? Because it just gives more visual dynamic.
Sure.
Like and it's also like, what is this guy doing? I mean, I did it yesterday from Pio's balcony and I'm yelling and there's like 15 people in the pool and they all just like stop and look up because I'm just like, breaking news.
Yeah.
Like, what? But yeah, I don't know. That format is where I'm at right now, and I love news. I used to do. I used to run a news site, so I used to cover Facebook.
Facebook News.
I had allfacebook.com. It was one of the largest publications on the internet, 65th largest publication
Really?
in the world, and that was the day-to-day activities of what was going on the Facebook platform, Facebook marketing. Those were the two things. But as a developer, I was able to provide analysis on like their APIs and changes in their APIs and different fields that were coming out. And new information about users are being exposed. And then Fox News would call me and be like, "Can you come on our station to talk about how Facebook's privacy policy is in conflict with the new information that's being leaked on their platform," or whatever it is. Like, so everybody had an agenda and a soundbite they were looking for. But yeah, I built a whole publishing business that I sold, and that's what catalyzed me to move out to California. That was in 2000. In 2007, I started it. That's when Facebook launched their platform. I'd built a social network myself when I was in college. I had built what had started as a music site. I mean, I built. So I'm going to go back and just set the context. Grew up in Arlington, Virginia. Went to American University. Became a self-taught engineer. And I wanted to. I skipped over a part. I went to Northeastern University for less than a year, and I got in trouble for selling weed, and I voluntarily left. And so then I ended up at American, and actually I went to Northern Virginia Community College for a minute, which was actually phenomenal. It was sick. And I started self-teaching myself development there. There was nothing to do when you're in community college. I'm like living in my mom's basement basically at that point. So I was like, I'm going to start something. And I'd quit smoking weed. I was just like, I'm going to change everything in my life, blah, blah, blah. And I was like reading self-help books and like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. And I started building apps, and I built a music site. MP3s were starting to take off at that time, but it was really on the verge of starting. So you had like the iPod, I don't think was out in 2002. I don't think it was. Or no, that was even still 2001, 2002. I don't think the iPod had come out. It was about to come out. And so people are still buying CDs. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to build rather than build a whole inventory of CDs, I'm going to just print on demand I started with like independent music. And so that's where I started my like
print on demand means
I built a CD replicator. The musician would send me the CD. I would scan the CD cover, or they'd give me an image, and the music itself, either the files or
kind of like drop shipping.
That was what I was going to do. The problem is all the musicians sucked, so no one wanted to buy their music.
Gotcha.
It was garbage, and so I was like, okay, this model sucks. And then I saw there was Friendster had come out, and then when I was at AU, Facebook came out. But before Facebook, there was MySpace, and MySpace did not yet have music. And I was like, yo, I think if you combine music and social networks, that's going to be like a huge thing. So I built what had now been this, like, the print on demand thing wasn't working. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this other thing. Anyways, that was a good idea, but MySpace ended up actually doing it.
Right, they did. They ended up integrate. When you would go on the MySpace page, it would start playing some music.
It could play music, but they also had a literal music area where musicians, top musicians, were distributing their stuff.
Oh, got you.
So it became like a music platform as well.
Right.
So they ended up building that. I was like, all right, well, and what really actually the catalyst for me to stop building my thing was seeing Facebook. And I was like, this is built so well.
Got the media already integrated into it.
It was even before they had music, but I was like, this social network is done so well. I was like, this is going to fucking kill it. Like, it was just done that well. They didn't have a platform yet. There was no music on there or whatever. I just thought this thing is going to absolutely crush. And I overheard girls in like the public area at the university. I forget what you call that, but basically like the student whatever lounge.
Quad.
Yeah, but like the indoor part on next to the quad. And they were basically like, yeah, did you see John's photos on Facebook or whatever it was? And I was like, holy shit, like,
this is huge.
This is big. And so I stopped building my social network and I was working on some other stuff. I built a textbook search engine, which basically would find you the cheapest textbooks so that you didn't have to pay full price. That was pretty cool. I didn't learn how. I bought some Google ads trying to like drive traffic to it, and that worked, but I was operating at like a slight loss. And then I had some other site I built. I built a bunch of different sites. None of them went anywhere, and I got a job, is basically what happened. I started getting employed as a developer because I'd gone and built these different sites. Someone's like, damn, you built a social network from scratch? Okay, yeah, we want to hire you. So that's how I became an engineer. And I ended up doing that for a long time. I'd build websites. A lot of the stuff was PHP at that time. And so I'd build like WordPress sites and things like that. And fast forward, I end up, I just kept building stuff. And fast forward, I end up blogging. And blogging starts getting me jobs.
Blogging was huge back then.
Yeah.
Blogspot.
Yeah, I was using just self-hosted WordPress because I was an engineer. I was like, oh, I'll get my own host. I'll set up the Apache configuration file. I'll set up, like, I would manage my server. And I was like, okay. And I'm learning in this whole process, but I'm also writing. So I was publishing. Before WordPress, there was another thing called text something. I forget. Anyways, there was movable type at that time. There were a bunch of different, like, blog platforms. There was Google Blogspot, like you mentioned. There were a bunch of them. But I was like, okay, I'm going to start blogging. And while what I started doing was TechCrunch had come out, I started writing about tech news and startups. And I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a developer. I'm going to go write about this area, basically. And I started getting an audience just with the tech news stuff. But, I mean, it was pretty small, and a lot of DC people were reading it. And when I'd go write about something launched that ended up being built by an agency in DC, and so I'd go and interview with them to get a job as an engineer, and they'd be like, bro, you wrote about us. We read your stuff. And I was like, oh, shit, that's crazy. Cool. And then Facebook launched their platform, and I'm like, holy shit, this is massive. I'm launching a Facebook blog. And I went all in. I was writing 10 posts a day.
Damn.
And so
well, how are you doing the distribution though? It was like how would they? Because on today's internet, I can't just make GabrielHaynes.com and start posting shit there. No one's gonna see that.
What I would do. So it was hand-to-hand combat. Actually, is what happened. So with blogging, well, there was a site called Technorati.
Okay.
Technorati, as well as there was another thing called My Blog Log. So these are the two things that are going to play into the
My Blog Log.
Yeah, and it was built by the guy that built Delicious. Or no, he built another thing. Sorry, that was another guy. But this guy got acquired by Yahoo.
Okay.
So basically, there were two organic methods, and then there was hand-to-hand combat, which was So I would target specific blogs. So you needed to build the currency at that point in time was links.
Backlinks.
Yeah, backlinks from other blogs. And there were two areas. Either they'd include you in an article or they'd put you on the sidebar on their like blog roll is what it was called, which would say these are blogs that I read.
Blogs.
Yeah, basically. And so you would, and what you would consume the content via was an RSS reader. So you would subscribe to all those different blogs and you'd go read in Feedly or Google Reader, or there was other ones at that time, but Google Reader killed all of them basically and just absolutely dominated. And basically what your goal was to be one of the people linked on one of the top blogs. So how do you get into the top blog? That is your number one goal. And there was another site that ended up coming out later that, but TechCrunch was the leading tech blog at that moment in time.
Makes sense.
And so I was like, how do I get on Mike Arrington's radar? Mike Arrington was the guy writing it. And so there were smaller bloggers. Like there was a guy, Frank Gruber in DC, who hosted an event called Tech Cocktail. And he became pretty well networked. And a lot of people were following him. And he was hosting events in Chicago, in Boston. And then he decided to host it in DC. And I was like, yo, I'd love to. I reached out to him. I said, I'd love to co-host this with you. And we hosted an event together. And Gary Vaynerchuk was the first event he sponsored ever.
When you said hand-to-hand combat, that's a Gary V saying right there.
Oh, is it?
He says that all the time, yeah.
So it was literally person to person. So I met Gary V at that event. I met Frank Gruber. Frank would link to my blog. I would link to his blog. And when you got a backlink at that point, you'd get a notification.
Oh, really?
Well, no. You'd see on Technorati. You'd go to Technorati and see your most recent links because you wanted to go up the rankings.
Interesting.
So
it was all like algorithm and like gamify. It was like kind of social media, but like on different.
Yeah, exactly. It was the pre-social media social media. So basically, you would see those backlinks, which was the at reply.
That's like the engagement.
That's the at mention on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then there was the comment, which is the actual reply, basically. So like writing a message to the person. And so you'd look at both of those things and you'd click through, see it. And if I kept pinging that person because they're seeing it, they'd eventually link back to me. So I would write a news story and then they'd write a thing, reference it, and it was conversational. So all the bloggers were really having a conversation amongst themselves.
It was really like Twitter.
Yeah, but the medium that we were using was a blog.
Right.
So we were writing a post and saying, and as Robert Scoble was saying, or as Mike Arrington said, was this thing. But I disagree with that because this, and this. And then they would come post a comment.
Interesting.
So it was
it really was like Twitter.
It was the original social media. Well, and that's why all the bloggers went to Twitter.
Right.
At that point in time, but it was like, oh, this is microblogging was what people called it.
That's what you used to call it, yeah.
And it was bloggers that thought in that sort of mentality about how they were doing it. So I was in that space while I was like developing. And then eventually the blog I was able to turn into a business. But there were other people at that time. There were events called there was Social Media Club run by this guy named Chris Hewer. And he was hosting these events all around the country. And it was basically talking about social media. But blogging was, in his mind, the beginning of social media. I viewed it as like, I'd built social networks. So I viewed that as like a thing.
Yeah.
And then the integration of those two things became like the social media that we have today. But agencies were trying to figure out, how do we navigate this, basically? And so it was a bunch of people that were trying to say, what is this thing? Like, what is social media? How does the media operate in that world? How do businesses operate in that world? And we were all just kind of exploring it. Gary Vee was an example of somebody doing that, exploring it from a video perspective. But YouTube didn't even exist, I think, when he started with Vidler. Was like a site that also no longer exists. Vimeo became like hip for a second, but Vimeo was like more filmic stuff. But there were a bunch of different video platforms, and people were like competing in that space. So it was like, oh, you got to know what are all those things. So we were all writing about it, we were covering it. It was very exciting, and it was kind of developing the future of media. So we were all collectively exploring this, and the agencies that I was a developer at were like PR, public affairs firms, public relations firms. They were all doing like marketing communication stuff in DC for various policy groups, institutes, nonprofits, whatever. And so you're kind of at this hub of a place where we're talking about the future of media, and we're also talking about, and we're also building those things. It required a lot more of a hands-on approach at that point. Now we have influencers that are just built on the platform, like Instagram and X and all these other places and YouTube. You don't need to be technical.
Back then you did.
But at the beginning, you really did, like to launch the blog. And agencies would hire people. And then who's going to write the content? And that's still a problem that exists. Brands struggle with that every day to come up with like who the hell is going to create our content. That's why we have a business like today is simply because of like we fill that gap, which is like we don't know what the fuck we're doing. You guys seem to do a great job at it. Can we like pay you to make some noise about our brand? And we're like, yeah, we'll do it. And so they pay us money to go and do that. And that's where I'm at today. But that's what the blogging stuff, the business that I built then, that was courses before course platforms existed online. That was conferences, which I did not invent, and and blogs, content. So those were my 3 C's: community or conferences, content, and courses.
Nice. I usually put K's at the beginning of those, but
yeah,
that's personal preference. So take me back. So you said you were building this Facebook platform. You co-host. Then you moved out to San Francisco at some point.
The Facebook blog. So yeah, I was writing about Facebook, and I had the conferences, and I had the conferences, courses, and content. I just hosted a conference on the day of the financial collapse, basically, when Bear Stearns went under in Manhattan on a Tribeca Rooftop was the name of the venue. And I had a bunch of people talking about like social media advertising. It wasn't a huge summit. It was like 150 people. But I made like personally like 50 grand on the event, basically, which I'm like, just out of college. That was like, holy shit. Like, I fucking crushed this.
Just for something you set up. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I did that event.
And you're just charging people to come.
Yeah. I'd also met this guy, Noah Kagan.
Oh. Sumo.
Yeah. So that was the first. He had hosted a conference called Community Next at that point in time. That was his entry into conferences. And I flew out to San Francisco right after I started this Facebook blog, and there were 2 things that happened. A guy named Dave McClure, who's was canceled justifiably for like weird sex shit with women and his like employees, or I don't know. There was some shit that had gone down. I don't know the details of it, but someone that worked for him later hopped on a call with me and was like, "Yo, this shit is not good," and I was like, "Okay." But
tech blog.
I didn't write about it, but that guy actually was like, outside of the fact that it sounds like he did some like really awful shit, he also did do great stuff. That's the weird thing. And so he had a conference called Graphing Social Patterns, which had like Reid Hoffman, who I don't know if he was running LinkedIn at that time. Yeah, he was running LinkedIn.
So new at that.
It was Mike Arrington at TechCrunch. It was Tim O'Reilly of O'Reilly Media, who writes. They publish all of the technical books about software engineering and stuff. There was this like who's who of Silicon Valley
Heavy
people
hitters.
that I had
Tim
no
Ferriss
idea.
Must have been there.
This was pre-Tim Ferriss, but I went to a dinner with Tim Ferriss when his first book, when 4 Hour Workweek came out. He was like a nobody up until then. And I'm just like, yo, this guy's crazy. I can't believe I'm having dinner with Tim Ferriss. That was in D.C. And then, but at that conference, I was like, holy shit, this is legit. And it was back-to-back 2 days. Noah Kagan did his Community Next event. And Mitch Kapoor, who created Lotus Notes, This guy sold it for $1 billion or something. It was one of the original word processors.
Okay.
And so it was competing with like Microsoft Word eventually came out, Word Perfect, and then Lotus Notes. And they also had Excel, or the equivalent of Excel. They had spreadsheets and things like that. That guy came to like speak at this event. I'm like, dude, Silicon Valley is sick. Like, these guys are coming and explaining, like, they're giving a business perspective to what was the Facebook platform. This platform had launched, and a bunch of engineers were suddenly making a fuck ton of money. And these were kids that were like in college in their or like working from their parents' basement. And we flew out, and I met a bunch of these people at these events, and I brought like a camera, and I interviewed some of them. And I was like, I'm covering this content. I'm like, man, this is
exciting.
I was like fascinated by this basically. And people were raising money. And I was like, how do you raise money like this? And then a buddy, a guy who I became friends with through this, just walked into, like, I was at one of the conferences. He was like, yeah, dude, I just got a check for $250,000. And I was like, how did you do that? He's like, I just walked into the VC's office and they said, you got a Facebook app? I said, yeah. And they said, here's $250,000. I was like, are you serious?
What year was this?
2007. And
okay. So this is like peak. People are partying hard. The economy's like at full swing.
Yeah. And so I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. I'm 2 years out of college at that point, basically. I graduated in 2005. And so, yeah, people are freaking going crazy at that point in time. And so I was like, this is nuts. And so I was just excited to be covering it. Mark Zuckerberg was reading my blog. I ended up interviewing Mark Zuckerberg. I met him. I met Sheryl Sandberg. I interviewed Mark Pincus, who created Zynga. This guy offered to buy my blog. We ended up never getting a deal done, but this guy, Mike Lazaro, who built a business called Buddy Media. Mark Benioff acquired Buddy Media from Mike Lazaro for $850 million later. And this is a company that I was going to merge into Buddy Media, but I didn't get the offer that he ended up making me. I was like, bro, you're giving me I can't afford it. He wanted me to come up to New York, and I was like, I live in a penthouse in DC. At that time, like, four of us were splitting a $3,000 rent for a 4-bedroom place, 2 living rooms. It was like, I'm young. That's like a sick place that I was in. And then me and my roommate ended up just splitting it at $1,500. It narrowed down eventually, and it was like, man, we got like a pretty good like setup here. So I ended up not taking that deal. At one point, I ran out of money, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to pay rent. And I was just like panicking. And I called
What happened? Like, you're still writing.
I'd quit my job as a developer in DC, and I was writing the blog. And I was like, I'm out of money. And so I called him and was like, hey, do you want to acquire it? He made me a second offer. And it wasn't, he was like, that's the best offer we're going to be able to do. And I was like, all right, man, I can't do this.
Why can't you do it? Like, it was just not enough money?
Yeah.
Like, but what, at that point, like...
He was going to give me like $50,000 and like 50,000 shares in Buddy Media or something like that.
But what did you care? Like, I mean, what was the blog worth at that time to you? Like,
I'd put in, a year and a half of my life, or a year of my life at that time. And I'm young, and I'm like, dude, I can go make more than $50,000 a year.
Off this blog?
No, I'm a developer.
Yeah.
Like, I was, one of the things I was doing was while I was developing, I put an ad on my blog saying, if you want, so this was the thing I did during that time. So when Facebook apps first came out, I went and Googled Facebook app development, and nobody was buying Google ads for it. So I bought that keyword, Facebook apps, Facebook app development, Facebook app developer. I had all the keywords. I was the only person advertising. And I was getting everybody. MTV, Wall Street Journal, Us Weekly, Weather Channel, all these like media companies wanted to build apps. I was getting all of them.
Yeah.
And they were all contacting me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even build all this shit. I'm getting so many leads. And so this is while I'm running my blog. But you land on my blog, and I'm the authority. there's no bigger authority on Facebook basically at this point.
Right.
If you Googled things about Facebook, I was showing up.
It was
basically,
Nick's.
it was my publication.
Yeah.
So like I was like, yeah, go to them, but they're not the expert. You hop on a call with me, I was gonna close the deal, like because I was like, anything that you need to know about Facebook,
the space.
yeah. So
And you knew all the people.
yeah. So basically, so I started making money off of the development stuff because I was like, you know what, I'll find a way.
But does right? So I guess if you keep the blog in your name,
Yeah, and I
that
own
gives
it.
you the extra. So that is worth 50,000 to you at that point because like you have this brand.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, I know I can make more than $50,000 a year.
Right.
I was like 20. So no, sorry. So 18. Man, hold on. That would have been 2007. So I would have been 25. So I was like, yeah, I can figure this out. Like that.
Right.
Like I'm 50 grand at that time was a lot. Like it was way like if you were. I had buddies living in New York that were making like 75 grand. I'm like, damn, dude, you're like doing pretty well. Kind of actually.
A year or a month?
75 a year, but it was just out of college. I get no, I still was like, I'm not gonna live in New York at 75K.
Right.
Like, there's no way. In DC, I would have been like, okay, yeah, you could get by. But most
I
people
feel like
weren't
you
getting.
just didn't want a job. You wanted to continue your
Yeah,
entrepreneurial journey
yeah.
because you had this conference you put up a couple years ago. You made 50K in one night.
No. The conference actually
Was later.
The sequence of events. The first offer was 2 months in. I was employed at a agency, one of the largest PR firms in the world called Fleischman Hillard. They compete with Ogilvy as one of the other ones, and then I forget Edelman is the other one. They're the three largest like global PR firms, and basically, he had called me. I stepped out of work, and he was like, "Yo, do you want to have your blog acquired?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm down." Or no. His first offer was to invest. He was like, "How much money do you need?" And I was like, "I don't know, probably like $250,000."
For what?
He was like, yeah, well, that was his question. He said, well, what is it?
But that's like a trap. He's like, I'm going to give you money. How
Yeah.
much you want? What do you need it for? Like, you offered, bro.
Exactly. He's like, look, why don't you come up to New York and we'll meet and we'll figure something out. I was like, okay.
Okay.
So I got on a train and I went up to New York and I met Mike Lazaro. And by the time I had gotten up there, he had acquired one of the developers that I'd been writing about. This guy, Ari, I forget his last name. This guy was fucking smart. He was knocking out app after app after app. And I was like, yo, this guy is good. Like and I started just DMing with a lot of these engineers and becoming friends with them basically. And this guy was super smart. And he became a co-founder of Buddy Media, basically, and he was building out the apps for Mike Lazaro. And Mike's like, "Look, Ari came up with this name. It was Buddy Media. I'm just gonna start this business." And I was like, "Oh, you should join us." And I was like, "Okay," but I was like, "Well, actually, we met. We didn't figure it out." And by the time I got back to DC, he like called me. He was like, "So this is what I'm thinking." And I was like, "Well, how are you thinking of approaching it?" And he made an offer. He's like, "I'll acquire your blog. It'll be X amount, but I'm gonna raise money. You'll have a salary. We'll have a sick office that we work from. Blah blah blah." And I was just like, "I can't do it, dude. Like, yeah, I'm not. Like, this isn't high enough." And like I was like, am I a co-founder? Like what? Like
Yeah.
well, like
You're
what's
just like, I don't want to be an employee of your project.
yeah, which is what it seemed like. So I'm like, oh, so now I'm just an employee. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, this is
Yeah.
not like the deal that I'm looking for. And so yeah, I was like, I can't do it. And I was still employed at that point in time. So then I went out I left. I got another job actually at another company temporarily, a startup in DC. And in between, they saw the blog. They're like, yo, you're crushing it with this blog. Really fascinating stuff. Can you help us with that? So I helped them with content, and I was helping them run marketing. And then I went out on my own. And the conference was the catalyst for that, basically. I made money off the conference, and actually, no, that's not true. I was doing the development, the ads that I was saying for doing Facebook app development, and I was like, I can just make money off of this. And I was getting deals from like Weather Channel was a big one, and I'd made like 25 grand for making a couple of apps.
Okay.
And I'd coded in like a few weeks. And I was like, well, this is fucking sick. Like, I'll be able to figure something out now.
Right.
And so that's what I used to fund. I used it to partially fund my first event, which was in May of that year. So I guess that would have been May, June 2008. Was that when the financial crisis happened? I think so. Bear Stearns went under.
Yeah.
And so
I think it was September, maybe. But
maybe there was another one that happened.
Okay.
So there was
around that time, 2008, late 2008.
Okay, the first one I made money on, I had the 50,000. I'd borrowed money from my uncle.
Okay.
And I paid for the conference. I made 50,000 profit. I paid back my uncle.
Oh, wow.
And then went and kept working and doing the app development while I'm running the
That's
blog.
a brave move to borrow money to. Had you done a conference before?
No.
How did you have the confidence to be? How much did you borrow?
30 grand.
And how did you have the confidence?
I had this blog then, and I was like, yeah, I saw Noah Kagan's event, honestly, and I was like, yeah, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, the dates are like a little blurry with the sequence, but I did borrow the money, ran it, made money off that, and then I was like, oh, maybe I can just do advertising and conferences and not do the development, because it was hard to do the development and blog at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm like coding and
creating content.
And so
they're completely separate.
Yeah, they're totally different things.
You're not creating coding content.
I'm creating content from coding, actually, which is like a news aggregator. So I'm watching the news and stuff like that. But
I meant coding content.
Oh, no. But I wanted to do some coding content, but my audience is not as interested in that.
I didn't even know you're a coder, honestly.
Yeah. I don't talk about it, and people don't want that side of things, but there is a subset of my audience, but it's like a concentric circles thing. So it's like topic A, topic B. There's some overlap between those two things. Yep. So that's what I'm trying to like go with, and people are like, well, I don't want developer content. But if you're in crypto and you don't give a shit about AI, you're like completely, if you don't care about AI right now, I'm just like, you're fucking smoked.
Yeah.
Like, we're all smoked. Like, as it applies to like...
hold on the AI. Well, you can tell me your AI thoughts. So let's finish up this with this trajectory.
Sorry, my ADHD.
That's okay.
So
I do want to hear your AI thoughts here.
So the basically, yeah, I hosted that conference. What happened was, so I went through these cycles. I was awful with money.
Okay.
Like, awful with money. I'd go out to like a nightclub and like just buy champagne on a credit card. And like, I was living like...
Really?
Yeah, like I didn't give a shit.
Why'd you do that?
I mean, probably emotional issues and a need to feel desired.
Did you want to... Were you buying it for other people?
I was young, single. I didn't feel like I didn't have confidence in myself. Like I had like personal problems, basically. I did have confidence when it came to business, but I didn't have confidence when it came to the ladies, I guess.
Okay, with the ladies. That's fine. That makes sense. But that's interesting that you can have so much confidence in one area, but not a lot in the other.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It takes a lot of confidence to go to your uncle and be like, I'm going to spend 30 grand on this conference. By the way, as your uncle's like big into conferences, I don't think so. You have to sell him on the idea. You're like, I can really do this. You have to have a lot of like trust in yourself. And then like, if this fails, where am I going to get that 30 grand from? I mean, he has enough that he wouldn't have cared if 30 grand was gone. Sure, like, listen, whatever the thing is, like, I'm sure he's, if he has 30 grand to just throw around, like, he's got money. But still, you personally, as a person, you know, going to your uncle, you have a relationship with him.
Yeah, and I'm not, like, super close with him. He's, like, the money guy in my, like, we're not, he paid for a chunk of my university. Like there were like so.
So maybe it wasn't such a big ask to go to him because you're like, he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. I mean, he still wanted something, and he made it like official, and I paid him interest. Which in hindsight is like, what, bro? But
He was loan sharking.
like
Why not? Why not pay him interest if he's giving you the money?
That's true. And it was like official, and I think for him, he was like, I can't believe you paid me back. Like he ended up saying that at some point. He was like, nobody's ever paid me back from like family or friends.
And yet he's still dishing out 30 G's left and right.
So I had that money. The financial collapse happens, and I had hosted a second conference.
Okay.
After that financial collapse, the day that it went under, you may have been right. It could have been September, but I think we're thinking about September 11th.
I don't know.
There was another stock crash that happened on whatever. I don't remember what year, but so I host another event, but the economy went down after that collapse, basically. Yeah. And so people were spending less money on advertising. There was a Sequoia, the venture capital fund, had like made this deck talking about like how everything's awful at that moment in time, and like how to buckle up and make sure like make your cuts if you need to conserve cash because the market, the liquidity is going to dry up. And you're not going to have money, and so you're going to have to survive this downturn. That's the most important thing, which I learned from that for later spending, and I've seen a lot through covering all these startups and interviewing them. But so the next conference I had, I lost money, and I'd borrowed money again. I went back to my uncle, borrowed money, and this time I lost. And so I think I lost maybe like $10,000, $15,000. And I'm like, fuck.
What happened?
What's that?
What happened? Like, why'd you like?
There just wasn't enough sponsorship. There were people there. It's expensive to rent like a Manhattan conference venue, basically like a huge venue.
Yeah.
I'd spent a lot. I would spend on a bunch of different things. I actually looked back, and that conference was pretty good, but I'd allocated someone to do like sponsorship stuff. Dude, I was like pretty disorganized. I'm kind of embarrassed when I look back at some of that. There was my level of professionalism. My level of ambition outstripped my level of professionalism when it came to that event. It was still really good. I had the head of Wikimedia. Wiki? No.
Wiki? What's Wikimedia?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, okay.
Yeah, the guy that started that
okay.
was at my conference.
He's begging for money now.
And I pay for the conference organizer, and I paid for all these other people.
So in general, I think it's just the economy tanked.
Yeah, the economy tanked, and so, but yeah, I maybe broke even or lost money, but I couldn't pay back my uncle.
Right.
So it was a loss. And so on the bus back from New York, I got a call from a random guy who was like, hey, you want me to buy your company? I was like, excuse me?
Okay.
Alan is his name. Why am I blanking on his last name right now? I can't even believe I'm blanking on his. That's embarrassing. I hope he doesn't see this. He had a company called Web Media Brands. He had acquired another company called Media Bistro, which was and this was a huge acquisition in the media space. There's very limited number of acquisitions in the blog space. You had Mashable, eventually got acquired, but they raised a ton of money. Mike Lazaro actually invested in that later round at a huge valuation. There was but Business Insider got acquired by a German company for like $150 million, and this was like an iconic acquisition. This
is in 2008.
No, I'm just saying the story. I don't remember the years that it happened. It could have been around that, but like I'm just saying the years
in general.
Yeah, and so like, and seeing Mashable had not yet been acquired. They had done a huge fundraising round, and so there was still this interesting stuff. And Media Bistro was one of them that got acquired for like $30-40 million. Okay. Laurel Toby is the person who ran that, and it made her fabulously wealthy. and she was focused on media. That was her media bistro, covering the media space, things like TV and radio space. And she had a job board that made a lot of money. They had a really good business. And so, and she hosted events in New York, and she was known for she had a scarf puffy thing that she would wear that she was known for. So anyways, she got acquired by Alan, and Alan also then calls me and he's like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And he created internet.com and some of these other things. He sold that for hundreds of millions of dollars. It was he had a company called Jupiter Research, Jupiter Images. These became huge businesses. He had, and publicly traded. It was during the internet bubble. Yeah. He had Steve Jobs speak at his conference. He had Bill Gates speak at his conference. So he was like an icon in the tech media space, basically, before blogging. And it was like literal magazines and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then websites. And so he was like a New York tech icon. I had no idea who it was. Alan Meckler. And he was like, yeah, do you want to sell? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, well, what's the price? I was like, well, I was like, I don't have, we'll have to sit down and we'll need to discuss it, but, you know, a few $1 million. And he was like, okay. And so he called up and we did a deal. And it was like a $2.5 million or $2.7 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold it to him. And I stayed on for a couple of years. And I pulled out enough money to fly to San Francisco and move out there. I had met somebody by that time and was dating them for a while, and we both moved out to San Francisco.
Wow.
And that was so that was that journey, and I was covering Facebook at that time still.
Let me go piss.
Okay.
And we're gonna come right back to that.
That's good shit, man. I have to pee so bad. I have to pee so goddamn bad. Holy shit. Holy shit. Okay. Oh my god. I'm so glad I did that. My dick was hurting. Okay, back in. Okay, so
Maybe I should have done the same thing.
do you want to?
All right, I'll do it real quick.
Go, man. We're in a good stopping place. So, choose Rich Nick. He's living his best life. He's conniving. He's diving. Holy moly. I can't believe this, man. Choose
Rich Nick, he's fucking selling his blogs for $2.5 million. This man chooses rich every day of his fucking life. Can you believe it? Can you fucking believe it? I can't. This guy's a dev. This guy, Choose Rich Nick, is a dev. How about that? While we're here, thank you again to the sponsor, Say, for making this show possible. Check them out. Say.io. And while you're here with me, Gabriel Haynes, make sure
you click like, you click subscribe, and you send me some tips. I need tips. I'm like a stripper over here. I'm stripping for cash. And so to any Alan Mecklers out there, if you want to buy this show, 2.5 million is a cheap price. It's a good price. Okay, Alan? Okay, Alan, you hear me? You sick son of a bitch! God damn it. I'm talking over here. I'm talking. Okay. So.
Can I have another water?
Yes.
Beautiful.
So let's dive back in. So you make the sale. You're negotiating the sale. Were you worried about negotiating the sale? Do you feel a lot of pressure making this happen?
Yeah, there was a so I had a lawyer, and I'm going through with the guy, and I'm like, this guy fucking sucks. Like the lawyer, the lawyer on my side sucks. And my roommate worked at an investment bank, and I'm showing him the agreement, and he's like, oh no, your lawyer's doing an awful job. And he goes through and he fucking like literally like adjusts everything.
Your roommate.
Yeah. And he was like, yo, you got to negotiate this. And I'm like, holy shit. So he tells me everything to negotiate. I get everything that I need out of it.
Awesome.
And I ended up paying my roommate when the acquisition went through. I threw 10 grand in cash on his bedroom when he came back in.
That's nice. He earned it.
Yeah, he did. And so that was sick. And what happened?
So how old are you at the time? 30?
No. 27.
27. And so you make the sale. What was the deal with the sale? Like, this is your business, so did you have to pay other people or?
So yeah, I had a business partner who was a good friend when I grew up, who owned 25% of the business, but he wasn't really like active in the business. No. And so I was like, dude, this is a fucked up deal. It was one of the forcing functions for me to sell it. It was all for the best though. I gave him his money. He got 25% of the original. The original amount was 1.2 million. And so I got, no, 1.5. The total amount was 2.7. Part was in earnout and part was in cash, basically.
What's earnout?
Earnout means you stay on for a few years, and so over the course of that duration, you'll get the money.
Vested. Yeah,
it's 2 years. Well, it's depending on performance. So I had a 2-year earnout. So I think it was like 1.25 million cash initially, and then another 1.5 million in an earnout.
Okay.
And so the 1.25 he got 25% of, and then you have to pay tax on that as well. Although there's a zero capital gains tax thing on companies that are over 5% or 5 years if you set it up as a C corp. There's a bunch of stuff you can do.
Really?
And I'm pretty good with that, and I did it. But I did have to end up paying some tax, a decent amount, to DC and to the federal tax or long-term capital gains. So I ended up with like $500,000 in cash or $550,000, which for me was like, holy shit.
That's a lot of money.
And so I paid, my mom had lent me a couple grand, and I paid her I gave her 10 grand, and I gave my roommate 10 grand, and I paid back my uncle, and then I could afford to move somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I was investing it. I was being an idiot with my money. I went and got a really expensive apartment in San Francisco.
Okay. A rental.
Yeah. Had I bought at that moment,
you should have.
It was the literal Pico bottom of San Francisco real estate. I have friends that that bought right down the street from me, and they ended up doubling their money in 2 years.
One surprising thing is that you actually got bought out at such a difficult financial time, globally.
He had a lot of cash, and the best time to be making acquisitions is when the market is shit.
But for you, the guy had made you an offer previously that was worse. And then the market got worse, and then the offer got better.
Yeah, well, that guy also valued me. I think one of the things that is notable, there's a lot of buyers in the market, but they don't all want to buy you for what you want. Which just means, well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of people that are shopping, but they're not ready to like necessarily pay for the item. But that guy, the reason he bought me was, so the conference venue I had rented, there was another guy at his company who's like, you got to check out this guy, Nick O'Neill, who runs all Facebook and Social Times. And he's doing some interesting shit. And he was going to check out a venue for one of his conferences, and he walks in the venue, and my sign is still up there. And he's like, Social Times? He's like, the guy in my office mentioned that to me. So he took that sign as a literal sign and calls me. He's like, yo, you wanna sell your company?
Yeah, because I was going to ask, was he at that conference? But I guess he just came later.
He came the next day because he was looking at the venue. And my signage was still up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. So you moved to San Francisco, 2008.
Yep.
You went to see the
Maybe
Giants.
beginning of 2009. Yeah, the Giants won. I lived across from the stadium, and they won every other year from when I was
Buster
there.
Posey, Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah.
Legends.
Yeah.
I grew up in that area.
Oh, okay. Well, that team was fucking sick at that moment in time, dude.
Yeah, they were.
I mean, that was just good to go. It's awesome to root for a great team, huh?
Yeah.
And then you ended up with Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, after.
I mean, that's an insane, for any sort of city's sports franchise run. That's crazy.
For sure. I grew up in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. I went to 1 year of high school in San Francisco. Maybe, how old was I? 2010?
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Hebrew Academy, San Francisco.
I'm not familiar with the schools there, but yeah.
That's fine. You don't need to be. It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
But so why'd you want to move out there? Just because of the tech vibe? You were liking it?
Yeah, startup ecosystem. The weather was completely different. I've never been in California. It was my first time in California when I went in 2007 for the Graphing Social Patterns and Noah Kagan's conference. And then now I was like, oh shit, this is pretty cool. And the weather there was great, and I was like, I can afford a nice apartment. It was a 1-bedroom that I got initially that was like $3,000 a month, which is literally
That's crazy. That is so expensive.
Yeah, yeah. And
where was it?
I mean, I'm looking at 1-bedrooms here. They're like $5,000 that are really nice, but
yeah, but this is 15 years ago. What?
Yeah. It was in Soma. The building was called the Beacon.
Okay.
It's right on King, in between King and Townsend, in between those two streets. It covers that, right next to the Caltrain station.
Nice. That's where I would come in. I would take the Caltrain every day.
And it was across the street from the Creamery, which was this coffee shop that a lot of the tech startup people would be sitting there and working from their laptops building startups. So there was that. There was South Park is another area. And then there's the Pier, which is which there was a company called Dogpatch Labs, or an investment fund, and WordPress was being built out of there. And I think WordPress may still own that building, but Dogpatch Labs left. But that was a guy who now is head of digital at Yahoo Sports. And he also, Ryan, I'm blanking on his last name, also it'll pop in.
Ryan Carson.
No, but I met Ryan Carson as well through my blogging days.
Okay.
The OG Ryan Carson. I met him the first time in London. He hosted a conference there that I was at in 2006. 2006. Maybe even 2006, 2005, something like that. I went with my buddy, the one that ended up owning a piece of my company, and his girlfriend, and we traveled around Europe too, and it was we had fun. But I met Ryan Carson. would host awesome conferences. He had at that one, it was Kevin Rose, Gary Vaynerchuk, Mike Arrington was there. It was like the whole Web 2.0 group of people, Robert Scoble, all these bloggers basically. And I was like, wow, all these, the guy who ran design for New York Times, Kai. He's Japanese. He's got a, this guy, like, he presented what was like the grid system for visual design when you're designing websites. And he kind of was part of popularizing it at that time. And now every web design system is built on that. But yeah, it was a sick time.
Crazy how tapped in you were.
Dude, I was like deep in all of that space, basically. All the VCs would reach out to me. They'd say, hey, what startups do we need to invest in? Who do we need to be looking at? I met a lot of big name VCs. They got the first venture capital. So Peter Thiel was the first investor in Facebook, but it was, I believe, an angel investment.
Okay.
Not through his venture
Thiel
fund.
Capital or whatever.
And then the first venture fund was through Excel Partners with this guy, Jim Breyer. Jim Breyer was on the board of Walmart, Dell, Marvel Comics. This he went to Harvard.
Okay.
Like, this guy was like a
Super
business
connected.
titan. And I got to meet this guy through me blogging about Facebook. He was like, yo, I'm in DC. Let's meet up. Like, literally just emails me one day.
Crazy.
And I was like, yeah, let's meet up. And super cool guy. But I'm just like looking up to these people being like, how did you end up in this place?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm like a random dude. Like,
Yeah.
I just happen to have a fascination with this space, and I was just writing about it. So, anyways, yeah, I'm in San Francisco, and I wanted to be close to all that. I wanted to like keep absorbing. I was just hungry for knowledge, honestly. Like, the fact that I was able to make money and get paid off of it, that was pretty fucking cool. Like, I was like, this is incredible. I was able to pay off my car. I was able to pay off my credit cards. I was able to pay for all these different things. And I was just like, man, this is so sick.
Feels good.
Yeah, felt good. So that's where I was
So
at.
what did you do? Now you paid off your stuff. You're living in San Francisco. You're continuing to write.
I was still working for this company. I'd fly back occasionally to New York and have meetings there with the team. And they were hiring other writers and scaling it away from me, basically, which is great. The numbers were growing. I'd still end up with like big articles that would perform really well. I was pretty good with SEO and also
Backlinks.
yeah, and getting just writing bait that would make people link to me, and breaking news as well. Hence I was obsessed with that, and yeah, that whole all these things are outcomes, they're externalities of the thing that was the practical side, was writing 10 articles a day. Like, that was the habit. That was if you were to capture all of that time, 90% of my day effort and everything was writing. I'd wake up, start writing, and pass out. I'd work till 3 a.m. on the East Coast because the West Coast would keep publishing until midnight. They'd come out with stories at midnight. So I'd stay up till 3 a.m.
So tell me about this 10 articles a day. Like,
couple of paragraphs each, few paragraphs. They weren't like huge articles, a few hundred words.
it's like one page.
It was a few hundred words.
I mean, that's still like 5-10 pages a day. I mean, 5 to 8 pages, let's say.
I don't know how much pages are, but yeah,
Whatever.
2 to 3,000 words a day.
Maybe you have a long page. It's only one page. No,
I don't know.
no. But what motivated you to, like? That's like a lot of writing.
Dude, so there became an analytics platform called Chartbeat, and it showed you real-time people on your site, and it was my goal is just to get that number to.
And every time you published,
yeah, you could see the people come in basically,
yeah,
and that really motivated me.
yeah,
Seeing the numbers go up. I watched Google Analytics. I watched Chartbeat. I obsessed over the analytics. I was like, okay, I need to make something that like does better, and I need to make something that does better. And I'm still doing that in some regards. Now it's more with video content, but yeah.
and it's more integrated, so you don't have to go on
chart beat to look at your
Yeah,
stats.
exactly.
What motivated me to start content was Gary Vee. Like, I saw a video of him. This is when I was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But he was like, you got to make 100 pieces of content per day. And I was like, what? I don't even do one.
Yeah.
So from then, I actually did start doing like one video a day since then.
Mm-hmm.
But you were on that track like years ago, like to a crazy level.
Gary was reading my content. I was there when Gary created VaynerMedia. I was he worked out of Buddy Media's office. Buddy Media, the one that offered
really?
yeah. So Mike Lazaro was like, yo, Gary, come launch in my office. And he gave him a conference room. And I went there, checked out the office, and it was AJ and a bunch of AJ's buddies working around a conference table, writing comments on different blog posts for clients.
Wow.
That was it. So I was there at the beginning of all of that whole thing. And then when NFTs, and he got into NFTs, I was there at the beginning, and I reached out to Mike Lazaro to see how he was doing. And he made a huge investment in Super Rare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in San Francisco. You're writing 10 articles a day. You're meeting people. What's going on?
Yeah, I was writing, but I started drifting, and I became less interested in the blog.
Yeah.
And I started becoming interested in another business. And I had a business idea around mobile apps for events. There was like some idea I had. It's never worked out for any events. But they were like, well, you had the idea while you worked for us, so we'd own it, basically.
Right.
Or we'll split it. Here's how it'll go down. We'll give you 25%. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, then I'm just not doing it.
Right.
And yeah, Laurel Tovey was the one that like ratted me out to Alan, because we had lunch and we were just catching up, and I was like, yeah, I have this idea, and I was talking about the idea. I was like, what are your thoughts on this? But I wasn't like necessarily going to even build it at that moment.
Yeah. So like you're working on this on our time type deal.
I guess so, yeah.
That's stupid.
But I was like, what the fuck? So anyways, I was like, all right, I won't build it.
So like, okay, fuck you.
So,
I'm not doing this.
So I went and built another app called Holler.
Okay.
And I also built another thing called Startup Stats.
And this is while you're still working there, or you quit? Or you got paid out?
I quit. I got paid out. I left. I negotiated an early exit, but still got a solid earnout.
Okay.
And they were good. Like, I actually didn't. After all was said and done, I don't have any hate towards them, to be completely honest. And I built a app called first Holler, which was a mobile app for like spontaneous meetups, basically like meeting up around different like subject interests. So it'd be like, oh, I want to meet other entrepreneurs like that are nearby. Let me just broadcast it out, see who's around.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing that, and that I spent a lot of money. I ended up putting a lot of money into it. And it didn't work out.
Into the app.
Yeah, there was a whole journey there. It doesn't matter. It failed. And I also built another one called Startup Stats, and they say, well, you signed a non-compete with us because they fixed a clause in the earnout. They're like, you need to update this part of your agreement. Anyways, they tried to say I have a non-compete. They're going to sue me. I broke some news on another site. I started blogging again. Because I got excited about it again. I had met Naval Ravikant, who...
Wait, hold on. So you quit that job that got you the earnout.
I quit the job. I started another startup. That startup
started
failed.
Working at it. Okay, so but now you started working at another place, at a new place.
No.
So you started the startup. It failed. Now what?
I'm just sitting on my money.
You're just writing.
No, I started after the startup
Because you
failed.
said you had a non-compete. Who did you have the non-compete with?
Sorry, let me just give you the sequence. I quit working at this company.
Yeah.
I built a mobile app called Holler.
Yeah.
Holler is nothing to do with blogging, nothing. It's just
Right.
about local,
Yeah,
like a
meetups.
social media. There was a trend at that time called social mobile local, which was like which was
so dumb.
there was an app called Highlight, which was created by the guy that ended up creating Clubhouse.
Like a Yik Yak.
I guess I'd never used Yik Yak, but there were other ones where you could you'd send out local broadcasts
That's
essentially.
what Yik Yak
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
That's exactly
yeah.
like that.
So Foursquare came out around then.
Yeah,
so,
Foursquare.
So there were different types of this, different derivatives of this, and it was a lot of people were interested. I was interested in it,
Yeah.
and my take was completely different, obviously. And so I went and built it. It didn't work out, and I was just like, I don't want to raise funding. I had a negative issue with my co-founder, and I was just like, man, I'm fucking like I'm out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just gave up. That one was not a great story ending. And then I built I started blogging again. I got some inspiration. And me and my ex she was learning Ruby on Rails and then got me to learn Ruby on Rails. And I built a system to track, at that time, randomly, Naval Ravikant sent me an email. It was like, yo, you want to meet up? And I was like, okay. And I went over to one of they had a party in their office, and we were chatting, and I met some other AngelList people, and he put together the whole team and was like, we're going to grab lunch with Nick O'Neill. And we grab lunch, and they're like, we want you should start writing about the early stage startup space.
Naval says this.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what? He's running AngelList at this time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do I get? He's like, well, we'll give you access to the API. We'll give you some private API endpoints and things like that, basically, so you can get our data. And I built an aggregator of a thing that basically tracked social media relevance around startups. So it would go through his database and get everything. And I built a dashboard where you could see trending things about each of the different startups to be like, yo, this thing's breaking out. And it's like they figured out virality, but nobody is realizing, none of the investors. And so I was getting the signals, good signals out of Twitter's data basically as well. And I was overlapping it with startups.
Got you.
And then I'd go to VCs and be like, yo, check this out. And they wanted to buy it. And this girl went and raised funding to compete directly with me. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, this is literally...
Which girl?
This girl, Danielle Morrill, built a...
You know her?
Yeah.
And you told it, you worked with her or something?
I met with them. They were like, maybe we should work together or merge or whatever. And she ended up building...
A competitor.
Yeah. And then shutting it down.
How did she get the access to the AngelList API, though? Because that seemed like a key...
There were other APIs you could scrape, and AngelList still had an API that you could use.
An open one.
Yeah, but I had no rate limit.
Yeah.
But I mean, he probably was like, yeah, sure, Danielle, you can access it as well. I mean,
you don't know.
He doesn't need to lock it off to me.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have exclusive. But I was covering news on this stuff and then also posting these trending stats.
Yeah. That's cool. So you were connecting his data with Twitter, which was new at the time because those datas weren't talking to each other.
No, and then what happened around that time was a lot of VC firms were like, shit, we should build something like this internally and have a predictive model around what startups are going to succeed. And every venture capitalist tried to do this. And I hosted a conference in San Francisco where Naval came and spoke and some other people came and spoke. And it was about it was literally about startup data essentially and venture investing based on data, and so coming from the private markets. So I had a bunch of really interesting people that were speaking at this, and it was just a private dinner of VCs basically, and people were like, that was fucking phenomenal. Like, it was a great event. Naval was talking about Bitcoin then at that point in time, which got me to buy it at $100. And he was big on it. And, but yeah, that was Startup Stats. I ended up shutting it down. The company came back and threatened to sue me. And
the one Danielle started
no, the company that I was
that you sold to.
yeah, because they saw this traction and they were like, we're going to fuck with you. I called my uncle and was like, do you have a lawyer that you recommend, like a business lawyer?
What basis did they have to threaten you, though?
I had an agreement with them, and the lawyer was like, they do have some basis to sue you, was what the conclusion of the lawyer was.
Okay.
And he was like, you just got to make a decision as to whether or not you want to deal with it.
Yeah. That's annoying.
Yeah, so I paused it, and I lost a bunch of momentum on that. And I basically got depressed for multiple years. And
from that.
Yeah. And I was literally trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing. I was thrashing. I was trying new things. I ended up building a thing called Text Decoder, which I got into like SMS messaging as like a interface for customers I got interested into. So I built a thing called Text Decoder to prove out my platform, which was going to be a text messaging based customer support system. And
which now is super popular.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, it hadn't happened, but yeah, so it was a good idea. And I ended up building this platform, and I launched Text Decoder, and Text Decoder blows up. And I'm like, text this number if you want to get a developer on demand. Which now there's a ton of these things, basically, where it's like, pay a designer $150 a month and always have them, whatever it is. This was a precursor to that. And I got a bunch of clients to pay me to do like development work.
Okay.
So now I was doing development work,
so you're
basically.
Back into dev.
Basically, doing development. And
but still, this is kind of related to what you were doing before, because you just had a new form of advertising. And previously you had advertised with Google Ads. Now you're advertising with this Text Decoder.
There was a site called Product Hunt that I launched the site on that drove a bunch of clients.
Yeah. Product Hunt's still around.
Yeah. So when I was one of the first 50 people on Product Hunt.
Oh, really?
And when Ryan was testing it, it was just an email newsletter. And Ryan Hoover, who created it, and then sold it to AngelList. And
I didn't know that.
So it's kind of like a small overlapping ecosystem.
Yeah, incestuous.
And so I ended up, that whole space was, I don't know, I was genuinely depressed. I went through an awful breakup. And
Ruby off rails.
Yeah, it went off rails. And I was just fucking depressed, dude. It was bad.
And you're in San Francisco.
Yeah, and then I moved to New York.
So you're feeling bad in San Francisco, and you leave because you want a fresh start?
Yeah, I was running the agency, essentially this Text Decoder thing. I was like, I can work from anywhere. Let me go explore the world. So I went to Chicago, visited a friend, enjoyed it there. Went to New York, really loved it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking live here.
Okay. So how long did you spend in San Francisco?
7 or 8 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. New York, 8 years. Now we're on Miami.
Miami, 8 years. Okay. So you wrap up your time in San Francisco. You're 35. You're going to New York now. No girlfriend. Still got a little money because you have some clients.
Yeah, but I'm rapidly spending it because I was living in baller ass apartments, dude. Like
in New York,
in San Francisco.
Okay, still in
San Francisco had some sick apartments, dude.
Nice, you're looking at the Golden Gate every day.
No, actually, it wasn't. It was just nice lofts in Soma.
Okay.
Yeah,
but even though you're spending all the money, you're still like not happy.
Yeah.
Money doesn't buy happiness.
No, it doesn't.
But it does buy Soma lofts.
Exactly. And Michelin star dinners.
Michelin star dinners. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're over San Francisco. Too many crack addicts.
Yeah, and the dating scene sucked, and I was single, and it was actually, I would like go out by myself and just like pick up women or like try to.
Yeah.
I'm not the most attractive guy in the bar, obviously, or although maybe sometimes I was because there were nobody else. But
Why not?
But I always had this like thing that wasn't like my grouping. I'm not viewed as the guy who's going around like meeting women basically.
Sure.
But then I started like doing that there, and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't even need to like dating apps. I can just like go out and meet people essentially.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't like sleeping around, but it was like it gave me a real boost of confidence, and I was like, dude, if you can do this in San Francisco, where the odds are favored for women because there's more women than men. New York is more men than more men than women in San Francisco. In New York, there's more women than men. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be great.
Okay.
So I went out here and I was like, oh, like this is gonna be great for dating, and I'll meet somebody. And I did. I met someone who I was with for many years as well, followed by another disaster of a breakup. But yeah.
Followed by another successful company sale, right? No, just kidding.
Well, that's the company that I'm in right now. So
So where'd you go to New York? Where I guess, yeah, where'd you move to?
West Village.
West Village.
Yeah, studio apartment. And I was messing with I was running Textacoder,
Yeah.
and I got into one of my biggest clients. I became a developer. I'd hired developers, but then I became the developer. I built a like automated accounting system for this guy for like basically private loans, private lending. So like I borrowed money from my uncle. He could have done it through this platform, and it would set up automated payments, interest, whatever,
Okay.
and it does all the accounting for you.
Really?
It's all taken
This is
care.
like proto crypto stuff over here.
Yeah, so like I built a blockchain.
One of the Ethereum co-founders.
But I built a ledger is what I built.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool, and I got like really into it because it was just like a cool problem and challenge, and I was like, this is interesting. And then he was like, yo, I can't keep paying you, and he was my last client, and I was like, shit, okay, I got to figure out what to do. I had a panic attack and ended up in the hospital.
Really?
Yeah,
So
and
you're pretty low at this point.
yeah, and I got a job.
Okay.
At that time though, I was making videos making fun of crypto. This is 2007. No, 2017
Okay.
when the ICO stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And so I was like making fun of all these ICO videos, and I made a thing called Newsfeed News, and I made some other stuff, and I was having fun with video. And my buddy, the one who had walked up at that conference at Graphic Social Patterns, said, I just raised 250 grand. I pinged him, or he pinged me, and he said, yo, you want a job?
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure. So I went and got a job with him and doing video production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, then I ended up coding. Obviously, I ended up falling back on
Back
that
to the coding.
and building some products for them. And then they laid me off. They had a big layoff. They lost a client. And I got a job at this company called Daily Pay and worked there for a couple of years, which I loved.
Daily Pain?
Daily Pay.
Daily Pay.
And I was employee 70. They grew to thousands of employees.
Yeah.
They were a unicorn startup. They made a ton. So, yeah. It was... yeah, that was a fun. I really enjoyed.
I'm surprised you enjoyed having a job after so much time being.
Dude, I could have a weekend. That was the thing that I like. Weekends are not a thing for me. Like I end up working through the weekends. I end up doing other shit. I'm not good with. I'm not balanced.
Yeah.
I'm probably a workaholic. But it's with direction. It's not just always for the sake of working. But sometimes I do find myself in a moment where I'm like, why am I working right now at 11? Like,
Yeah.
I'm with my girlfriend at like 11 p.m. watching a TV show, and I'm just like on the computer, and I'm not with her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
You're watching TV, you're not with her also, in large part. Maybe you're cuddling,
levels.
whatever. Yeah, yeah. But I'm not like connecting deeply.
Yeah.
And so I'm definitely not connecting deeply when the thing's on there and I'm eating on my computer. Like there's
Yes.
so
You can connect over a movie,
yeah, you totally can.
but not with Kentucky Fried Chicken and coding.
So yeah, and when I get passionate about the thing that I'm building, which
You're all in.
and I'm there right now, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so what was the?
You got laid off. You were doing video
Yeah,
production.
working at Daily Pay. Daily Pay was insane. It was
Daily Pay.
incredible to be part of it. I had such a huge impact. Changes I'd make would increase their revenue by millions of dollars.
Wow,
And I was like, this is fucking sick.
this is cool. Yeah.
And it was back into that growth mentality, the same stuff I was using for blogging to optimize stuff. I got to implement for this thing. And I was like, yo, this is like, I can go optimize some shit, basically.
Yeah.
And so I like got obsessed with that. And because I was a developer, I was able to optimize on a technical side also, where I'd be like, hey, here's a problem that you have in your system. Here's let me run it. I built a whole analytics platform for them. It was so fun, man. And I worked my fucking face off at that company.
Yeah.
But it was so insightful being at a startup that became a unicorn, basically. It was so much insight to see companies, one company after the next, working with these entrepreneurs. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I wasn't just always like, focused on myself, like on being the entrepreneur for forever, because it was so insightful in terms of learning about management, seeing how people deal with management, seeing how people organize around things, seeing the things that are completely broken and how things are broken all the time, how to tolerate things being broken, and not like what to actually give a shit about.
Yeah.
What not to give a shit about.
There's also less pressure on you.
Yes, and you're able to do it from a place where you're not the one having to worry about.
It's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, if something goes wrong, it's not on you necessarily.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. It can be pretty nice. So, but yeah, while I was there, I got back into crypto, which is where we're at now. The COVID happened. I made some money shorting the market on that. I started getting managers put on top of me, and I started getting into, I was like, I got to do something creative. And I went back to podcasting about crypto, exploring NFTs. Initially, it started as a podcast about stocks, switched to NFTs, went all in on NFTs, created a site, nftnick.com, and set up a blog and started just writing a bunch of stuff and just covering it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to like dive into this and figure it out. And I became obsessed. And I quit my job. I worked at a buddy's company. He worked at a blockchain. And he was like, I'll hire you. And I did some stuff for him. I was there for a few months before I quit and went all in on this company. And yeah, that's where we're at today.
So I remember the Nifty portal.
Yep.
You had to like put your email in or something.
The nifty.com?
I got that. There was like nifty.com. Was that you, nifty.com?
The nifty.com.
The nifty.com? It was like italicized, right? No. Different one? I just remember like I was signing up for, maybe it was like a newsletter or something, and you had this portal, like it was like
about NFTs.
It was like no, you got an NFT. You minted an NFT. A Nifty portal.
Oh, you're talking about the Nifty, the free NFT platform. Yes, you got a free NFT for registering. Yeah, I ended up building a free NFT platform.
Okay.
I was particularly interested in that. Yeah.
Okay, but that's after, not yet, or was that then?
Yeah, it's part of the same business. It's all the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started doing the content.
Doing content again. We launched an NFT called Nifty Portal.
That's what I'm talking
which
about.
Which made money, but that was not free. You have to buy that. That's an ETH NFT.
You had to buy that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
We ended up launching, or we sold it at the beginning of the year. So 2022 March or something like that.
And this is you're already involved with PO at this point?
Yes.
And how'd you guys?
Got introduced via a mutual friend.
Okay. And he was also doing a podcast.
Yes.
So you team up. I want to ask you about this because you worked a lot. You had a lot of co-founders. in your life?
No.
No.
I've had one other one. Two other ones, I guess. So, yeah.
So only 3.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned this other business partner, he had 25%, this guy, this, you had a falling out with this other one. You said that you built this company and you had an issue with them.
Yeah.
Like, how, like, what have you learned, like, in that process of, like, working with a co-founder?
I mean, co-founder stuff is tough.
Yeah.
It's difficult. At some point, though, you kind of just got to, like, there's things that everybody's different. So having another person can keep you accountable. It's also helpful when, like, if you're down, they can actually step up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about co-founder relationships other than the fact that they're difficult. They're like marriages. It can be volatile. It depends on how your relationships are. But it's very similar, except you're not obviously sleeping with them. But
even like in this previously, you failed with this other one. You were willing to be like, okay, PO, you seem like a good enough guy where I'm willing to take this risk with you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to raise money, and having another person looks good.
Okay.
And I thought when you go look up having co-founders, not having co-founders, they say the majority of startups that don't have co-founders fail. Although I've done the solo thing and it's worked great. But, dude, it would be way more difficult if I had done, like, I don't think I could have done this on my own. And what we've built is, like, a group of people. And I think Pio's way better at, like, he's motivated a lot of that stuff.
The community aspect?
Not the community. No, the team members. Like, we have Clemente. We have
your team.
Easy. Yeah, our team. He, like, helped hire those people.
He helped build that team.
He helps hire. He helps fire. He's good with people. He's a creative force.
Yeah.
And when we do get into creative collabs, we fucking crush. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like, together we crush when it comes to creative collaboration. And there's areas when we first started, it was like fighting. It was like straight up fighting about, like, podcast stuff. The podcast isn't good enough, Pio would say. Like, stop interrupting me. Do this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, tension is good. I'm like, just, like, allow the tension to be. And then he'd be like, man, what the fuck, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, well, fuck you. And I'm like, what? Like, we both have, like, we both have a degree of us that can, like, if we push the other person,
you also have a strong opinion about
the
it.
person will push back, basically.
Yeah.
And so we've since figured out great ways to collab, and a lot of it's been on video.
You mean you together in, like, skits and podcasts and stuff?
Either we're in it or we're not in it. Like, I shot a thing yesterday with Clemente and Pio. I just held the camera.
Oh, gotcha.
No one has no idea that I'm the person holding that camera.
Gotcha.
But I've done
just
that
in
for
creating video.
Yeah, like spitballing it, being like, change this part of the script, do this. Here's how I would adjust that, and, like, we both work on those things. He's done the majority of all the music.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
He's incredible at that. I only did one rap song that I wrote exclusively. The Dave Portnoy one, I wrote a verse. He did the whole thing, and then I went and shot it.
You shot it?
Me and a guy in New York.
Okay. I thought Pio did that.
No, we shot and edited it in 4 hours.
Nice.
It was. I was hopping on a plane to go to Paris. So yeah, that was crazy.
So. Yeah, I mean, you brought up Portnoy. Let's go there. You got a beef with Portnoy going. So you got on Portnoy the first time, I think.
Twice. But the first time was Choose Rich.
Nick.
Yeah.
He brings you on. Yeah, this whole, and I think you're, like, friendly. You're like you're good with them. Like, you're
Yeah.
But then, you tell me what happened.
Well, we went on the pizza show. That was okay, except I
didn't see that. What did you do with those?
I went on his one bite pizza.
You did?
Yeah.
Whoa, shit. Where did you go?
Here in Miami, it's some awful place. It was shit.
What was it called?
I don't remember.
Okay.
And
2 out of 10.
it was not good. And
that's awesome. I need to see that.
he
one.
was like, "Wow, you rated that pretty low." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. It's not good." He's like, "Well, you're lactose intolerant also, so that's not great." So he's kind of dunking on me.
So yeah, he already the beef.
No, the beef had not begun. So we were like on good terms, and then I broke this story that he was launching a token.
Right.
And he just quote tweeted it and said false.
Yeah.
And he was like furious. He literally DM'd me and said, "Fuck you."
Okay. Where
Like-
did you hear about that he was launching a token?
I got a source.
Okay.
I have news sources,
Okay.
like people that give me information, and they said he's supposedly launching it this weekend, and I said Kanye and Dave Portnoy, which is
This source, this is like a celebrity source, like a TMZ type scoop person. Like, what is this? Like, who knows about celebrity? Like, who is this? Don't give it like.
It's people that know people, basically.
Okay.
Like if it's someone who's close to whoever.
So someone who knows Portnoy is like friendly with him or works with him.
Well, there's also the person launching the token. You need someone in the crypto space, right?
So someone who's like working on launching celebrity coins. Sahil.
Or other tokens.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it actually, Dave Portnoy ended up being coming close with Hayden.
Yeah, that we know that. Yeah, but so Hayden,
So Hayden didn't give me the information.
someone that works with Hayden.
Someone close to Hayden did.
How much do you know about Hayden?
Not a lot.
Guy's a freak. What's going on with this guy?
I have no idea.
So
All I know is all the reporting stuff. I had never met him, never even heard of him.
yeah,
I didn't know Hayden was the person behind that token when I wrote that story.
so Portnoy was supposedly launch a token. He didn't launch a token. He didn't, or he did.
He did
a
days
story
later.
But was that him launching it, or was he? Because there was this narrative that was like someone else.
I mean,
launched
suddenly
it.
he decided to go. All of a sudden, literally within 24 hours of me writing that report, he's all in on fucking launching tokens.
Right, jail stool.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, that basically was him launching a token. He was promoting this token.
Right, so he didn't launch it, but
He hasn't made
controlled
money on
some-
it. He hasn't made money on it. And I think he like fucked up his whole approach to it.
he hasn't made money on it.
No.
How do you know?
Because he hasn't sold it.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, you could have like a side account or whatever.
I guess in theory, if he was like really like malicious and dirty like that, he doesn't strike me as someone that's.
You don't
doing
think
that.
he's dirty? So what's the deal then? Why was he so upset?
Because I grouped him with Kanye.
That was what set
It
him off.
seems like that. I have no idea. Yeah, he's particularly sensitive about various. He wants to have a good reputation, I guess, and maybe it was having some negative impact on it.
Okay, whatever. I mean,
I think he was overblown in his like attack on me, basically. But I was like, oh, if you're gonna attack me, let's fucking
let's
go.
go diss track, which was hilarious.
Yeah. So he added So it. I'm not like a quiet person. So I'm like, bro, you're coming after the wrong person.
Yeah, like I'm a content creator. I'm gonna make some content.
Like, yeah. So,
But that bothered him that you made a diss track. Like, who cares?
No.
Who cares?
no, that's it. I don't.
No.
No. But right after that video happened, he did go in, give the award to some random shitty video.
What award?
$100,000. He said, I'm going to give $100,000 to the person that makes the best ad for Jail Stool. And he goes
And
in
he
and
did do
announces
that.
it. Maybe. I don't know who the person is
Right.
on the receiving
Probably
end.
him.
But it was some shitty fucking video. And it was right after I went and published the music video.
Right.
He announces this other one. and there was no comparison for a jail stool
But he
ad to
wasn't
the
gonna-
music video.
He wasn't gonna pay you $100,000 for a diss track of him.
That would be the most baller thing ever.
True, that would be.
I felt like that would have made sense. I don't know. So yeah, I
I
thought.
sense you're a little pissed off about it, or sad about it, or something.
In that moment, I was like, yo, I just worked my ass off. I was running to the airport. I literally like grinded my face off on that video over the. Well, Pio wrote the track, so no, I like, but it was Pio, then me updating it, then me shooting it, editing it. It was like a stressful day, and I also had to fly to Paris, and I had to pack and everything, and I was like, okay, I gotta get this like all taken care of, and so I'm at the airport, and I see on my Twitter account that like I'd published the video, it was doing really well, and then I saw that. He immediately goes and awards somebody else, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
You thought you were gonna win something after he said "fuck you"?
I didn't know if I was gonna win it. I just thought like I thought there was gonna be more content. Like I didn't think that he was immediately going to go and do this thing. But the opening of that video is like, oh, you want an ad for Jail Stool?
Dude, it was hilarious. That was funny. That was awesome. So yeah, let's. So what are you working on now? Tell me about the aggregator. What inspired you for this?
I've just been doing news stuff, and I was like, dude, I think there's enough people that are all in my DM saying, what do I buy? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. I want to know more. I was like, okay, I'll make an app where like I'm publishing updates on things as they happen, like live stuff, market actionable stuff. And I'm going to have some like new other news. You need, so what I did was I was like, I don't have a big enough cadence of updates. It's a lull in the market. So I need something else to like cover.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to have news that's coming up so you know what's going on and you're at least aware. So I can wake up, I can see what's going on in crypto. Obviously there's newsletters, there's other things, but there will be some other elements built into it to keep people ideally engaged and interacting with it.
Yeah, you can just do general financial news.
Yeah. So it's that's a premium thing. So I set up a landing page and I said, if you want access to this, enter your credit card, you'll get a free trial and I'll get you access to the app. And I've a bunch of people who have paid for it. And so I'm like, okay, validated.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So you got a bunch of people signing up for like news,
Premium,
like curated news.
yeah, on the beat as it happens. And if any like interesting token, like if there's anything, any like financial trade for them to make, they'll get an alert.
That's awesome. I mean, for Twitter, the reason I think Twitter is very heavily favors fast
Yes.
news. That's why it works so well for you, I think.
Yes. And that's why the aggregator is interesting. It's going to both help the content as well as give people, help us grow community audience and deliver value to them. But we host events. We do things like that. I want to do more of that. Yeah. I think the app is a cool place to like do that. And it kind of is a amalgamation of everything that I've wanted to do. This is my final piece for the having this app built out. I'm excited, and AI has enabled me to like do all this stuff way quicker.
Yeah.
I'm like just a faster engineer at this point. It's insane. It's like I'm 10x as fast.
10x.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm doing things that I never was able to do thanks to like the LLM stuff and diving into AI and figuring out different models.
So which AI are you using? Which one do you like?
I use a lot of different stuff like on a daily basis. When it comes to coding, that's a separate story. Claude is the de facto, Claude 3.7 is the de facto.
I never use Claude.
It's phenomenal. I've experimented with Grok, and I experiment with ChatGPT I use as well on a daily basis. but Claude is my development assistant essentially. But I also use it to think through how to approach this and be like, okay, what are the issues with building a news aggregator? So it has like temporal drift, and you're like, sorry, what? Explain to me temporal drift. Well, temporal drift is when this, and I'm like, I'm learning AI. Like I'm learning about AI models, new aggregation systems, problems and challenges associated with that, an area of expertise that I wasn't previously familiar with. And I'm someone, developer who used to just go and like grind hard on like, I'll go buy the books. I'll go read the books. I'll go figure it out. I'll spend all fucking day to go make this vision a reality. But now I just go and ask AI and it tells me.
Yeah. So you're using it not only to help you write the code, but also
to integrate
structure
into
it.
the code. So I don't want to give away my model. So that's I used to ask, there's this guy, Gabe, who runs TechMeme. And TechMeme is a news aggregator that Mark Zuckerberg reads every day and a bunch of other people. And I used to race to get onto this thing. He'll never share what that model is.
So the curation algorithm is like a big part of this.
That's the gold. That's the money. The model and methodology that you use to aggregate is key. And so,
But what are the parameters? Just like keywords that it's pulling in? Like what is the
well, again,
like for his
his
analysis.
is link heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a blog aggregator and social media aggregator, it became eventually. But he would use links and backlinks. But then you need to figure out topical association. So semantic analysis would be the other thing that you're doing, basically. So you need to figure out ways to do semantic analysis. But then if you do additional semantic analysis, what you start building is a model defined around that specific subject.
Yeah.
So like, what are the stories in crypto about?
Gotcha.
What are the stories in tech about?
Right.
Because you need some way to
Filter.
to categorize. So you end up needing different systems to those are classification systems, right? To say this is news, this is analysis, this is bull posting. Like, what is that classified as? That's not analysis, or you can bullishly share a chart, but is that actual analysis or is that something else, basically?
Yeah.
And so you need a way to filter through what that information is and add attribution to it to say your goal is to get. You need to define what you want your aggregator to do.
Yeah.
And then define that. But something like Claude, for example, is built on a ton of data. They spend millions of dollars every time the model is developed, and they do an evolution of that model over time. But that's a generalized model. That's across. That's supposed to do everything for you. So then what you end up with is you start developing localized models once you get the data. So initially, you don't have the data, so my system is going to use different models that I'll experiment with to see what's the accuracy rate at which this makes a judgment as to whether or not this is news or this is something. So you start defining like what that is. And then over time, you may start training it on your own system.
So you're training this model from zero.
Yeah, so I'm using other pre-existing models to begin with. So the system may be... But the way that you get around that is curation. Gabe used to talk about that. He said, I've never found a fully automated thing. I need to curate it. So what you have is you have an editor who's operating with the machine. So the machine will say, here's a story. And you're like, yeah, but that was already discussed 3 days ago. It's not news. So like the temporal drift thing, for example, is... which sounds like a cool thing to say, but really what it is
People don't pay attention over time.
It's no. What it is news evolves and a story evolves, but how do you lose attribution? Does it become a news story? Is it associated with the old
a new
story?
detail emerges in an existing story.
Exactly. Or there's reference to Trump's crypto strategic reserve still being referenced right now, but that's not
a news.
It's not a news story, basically.
Yeah,
But it could be if a new department changes something about what they're doing in order to incorporate it, something like that. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, there could be a new piece of information, new policy that's going to come out. But you got to know, is it a new policy?
Or is it just just the same thing, different way?
Rehashed via someone else or like it could be an analysis piece, which is legitimate to contextualize why something is going to happen.
Right.
Analysis is incredibly valuable. So there's a value for that. But when someone's coming to something, there's two things. First, give me the piece of information that matters, which is the news. And then there's the analysis component of it. The analysis is the value add. That's through your eyes, through your lens, through your knowledge and awareness of all these different things. To provide that analysis is huge. That's where people end up looking at some of these LLMs and saying, wow, this thing's doing phenomenal analysis. I could go to ChatGPT, turn on a deep research, and have it basically go in, find all these different articles and do the analysis for me. It does phenomenal research. And it's like, it'll get you 90% of the way there on a subject matter that you never even were familiar with to begin with. That's it. That's all that you need, basically. Like, and so that's worth so much that got rid of entire businesses like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's like so exciting. It's very cool. If you're in crypto and you're not looking at that, I think you're like, it's absolutely wild. Crypto generally is boring. There's not actually a lot of stuff. Crypto Twitter is a different thing. It's drama. It's like whatever the stuff is. But there's not a lot of news on a daily basis that fit a very serious level. There may be like on a great day, if you're a news, there's like 5 stories. On a awful day, there's 0. The story you're making up is basically the same thing that CNBC does. And okay, today the stock market went down 15 points. What's the
reason?
Yeah, what's the reason? No one fucking knows.
Yeah, and then just DeepSeek, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's the stuff that I'm sort of exploring, and it's fun because it's a way to explore and examine information.
Yeah.
And how do you present that? And I'm interested in both the written presentation of it as well as the video presentation of that. So we're going to keep doing that. And then we're also going to do stuff to raise attention. You need different things to build awareness. Like Barstool Sports talks about the latest thing going on. Like, oh my God, there was some basketball player. LeBron's son.
Yeah.
Who sucks.
Bronny James.
Yeah. And what's his name on ESPN?
Stephen A.
Yeah. Stephen A. basically like said Bronny sucks effectively. And LeBron was like, comes up to him at a game, courtside, and says, "Fuck you."
Damn.
Like, keep my son's name out your mouth.
He slapped him too.
Basically. And so that was what went on there. And so, but I got that from seeing Barstool. So yeah.
What do you mean? Just
like
the
they
reporting
presented.
in general?
They saw some information on there. So they do news.
Yeah.
But what makes Barstool is really Dave Portnoy and these like icons, basically.
But that's reporting on Barstool
sports.
But it's like sports drama. It's not real sports. So in the same way, you could do CT drama.
Yes. But dude, this is like a niche within a niche.
Yeah.
But yes, we do. We do cover some of these different things.
Yeah.
We covered the Solana video the other day that was like just everyone like I mean what a non-story. I mean, it was a dumb fucking video. It was so poorly written. People are like, I can't believe they did. Like, there's like people on both sides. They're like, I can't believe they deleted it, and be like, this is so anti-trans. Fuck this. Like, blah blah blah.
A lot of money on that.
Yeah, they spent a bunch of money on no matter what side you view on stuff, it was a shitty video, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
but they got a lot of buzz. Is that worth it to you in the media business?
well, I would be okay, but they didn't seem okay with it. They
No,
deleted it.
they were, like,
and-
embarrassed.
and- yeah, they were embarrassed. Which I'm just like, come on.
You put out a shitty video and then you're embarrassed. Just own it.
Yeah,
Like, fuck it
exactly.
up. Just
Yeah.
be like, I fucking hate trans, you fucks.
I mean, I think the whole thing is just kind of like, it's a nothing burger. No one in the regular outside of this space
Right.
gave a shit.
That's interesting. So you really want, but that's, you want to cater to that audience though?
Which audience?
The audience that's outside of the space that can actually care about things going on.
Yeah, because that is the money.
Yeah.
That's Coinbase users.
Right. Right. So it's like,
There's millions of Coinbase users,
but what
but
are they interested in crypto?
XRP,
Yeah.
a random meme coin that's
Yeah.
on there that they can go make money.
Yeah.
They want to know the basics.
But what's the new, like, yeah, it's like so not exciting for me, for example, to like learn about XRP news.
Yeah, but it's It's exciting for me to be like, holy shit,
Yeah.
dude! They dropped the charges against XRP,
Garlic
and
House,
now
yeah.
like, and now
Yeah.
this is like driving the pump back
Yeah.
up. It's basically a synopsis. My videos
get you.
is like dramatization of daily news, but I'm still giving you daily news.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was very successful in doing just that around the time of SBF.
Yeah, the FTX stuff.
Yeah, that is what I was doing. I was doing the new, because I don't know if you remember, but
I do remember.
CZ and SBF had a whole feud, like leading up to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a lot of information that was coming out around about that. And even my big video with like Caroline and SBF sleeping on the beanbags, that was news in a way because that information had just come out
Yeah.
about the polycool and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking like, what if it was like Game of Thrones was delivering the news, you know?
Yes.
Which I do think, which people did connect with. The thing that I find hard about doing that is that you have to be connected to the news in order to create that content.
You need to be excited and about the thing that you're covering. I used to be so fucking excited about like tech startups.
Right.
And right now my excitement is I have excitement drift, which is towards AI. I fucking
sense.
I love the AI stuff.
Because that's the cutting edge. That's what you're excited about. That's what's
Dude, it's being so transformative right now and there's new things happening every day.
yeah.
Like it's insane what's going on in that space. It's just so good. And like there's nothing happening in crypto.
Mm-hmm.
So, but people in the crypto space love seeing it. I'll try doing some AI things.
Yeah.
Jesus, to see what happens. But yeah. When are we rolling till?
That's it. We're done.
Oh,
I don't know. What time is it?
12:30.
Oh, shit. All right, Nick. Thank you. Let's wrap it up here. I appreciate it, man.
Dude, appreciate you having me.
This was fun, man. I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks. I thought they were going to come in, but I guess we went a bit over. That was fun, man. I really appreciate it. Wanted to dive more on that AI stuff. I just started using Gronk and shit, and I just have my mind blown all the time.
Oh, dude, it's fucking insane. It's incredible.
You got to run? Go.
Yeah. Hold on. What is the Pudgy ETF?
All right. Let me tell this guy to turn this shit off.
Pudgy Penguins is launching an ETF.
Yo, look, he did it again. He did it again. This guy is a genius. Yo, this motherfucker doesn't miss, dog. Pudgy penguins to the moon, motherfucker.
I gotta shoot a video, but this is pretty. This is.
Shoot the video right here, bro.
Yeah, actually, this is the right place to do it.
Luca Nets is out of his mind!
Let me see what the.
What kind of ETF?
I'm about to find out.
I'm about to find out right here, right now.
cool if I just shoot something real quick?
I got you.